Aloha, it's Robert with Blue Planet. Oh, I guess I don't really need that. Just make sure you keep that social distancing. So this video is all about choosing the best board for your needs. And at Blue Planet, we've helped thousands of people choose the best board for their needs. Stand Up Paddleboards are not one size fits all. So don't just go online or go into a store and buy the cheapest board you can find. Watch this video and it'll help you choose the best board for you. Some of the things to consider before buying a board are what are the conditions you're going to use it in and what are the functions you want the board to perform. Also, probably the most important factor in choosing a board is your height and your weight. And third is your future goals. What do you want to do with the board in the future? I'm going to focus only on all-round boards, hard boards. If you are living in a place where you're going to only paddle in flat water, like lakes, rivers, smooth water, no waves, then I would also recommend looking at touring boards, which have more of a pointy bow and a displacement nose that helps you go faster in flat water. But if you want to also consider using it in waves or in the ocean, I would definitely recommend looking at the all-round boards, which are the most popular boards to buy for beginners. For many people, the first choice is, should I get an inflatable or a hard board? Inflatables are very popular, but they do have some downsides. I have a video about the pros and cons of inflatables that's linked above. Here at Blue Planet, we only sell hard boards, and one of the reasons for that is the longevity of hard boards. Some of the epoxy boards we sold in the 1990s are still on the water today. They last a long time. Unlike inflatables that, especially in a tropical climate, will deteriorate. The PVC can get brittle, the glue will deteriorate. Eventually those boards will not last as long as an epoxy board that's well maintained and repaired. Okay, so let's get into the dimensions of the boards. A lot of times people come into our shop and say, I want a 10-6 board. So that the length of the board is important, but it's not the most important thing when you're choosing a board. What's more important is the width and the volume of the board. And that really varies with your weight, your height, your ability. So for beginners, we usually recommend a volume that corresponds with your body weight. The volume should float about twice as much weight as your body weight. So if you're 200 pounds, let's say, you want a board that has about 170 to 200 liters of volume, roughly. So roughly as a guide, you can use your weight in pounds and 1-to-1 in liters of volume. So 200 pounds, roughly 200 liters, maybe a little bit less. If you're 120 pounds, 120 liters of volume is plenty for you. So that way, the rails will be about halfway underwater, which gives you a nice amount of stability. If the board has too much volume, you're actually higher off the water, which can make it less stable. And if you're choosing a board for a family, for example, always use the heaviest, tallest person as a guide for choosing the volume and the width. So the width is also very important. A narrow board will be much more tippy, while a wider board will have more stability, because the width is what gives you the side-to-side stability. So it's a very important number. A wider board will be more stable, but a narrower board will be faster because it has less drag through the water. So for speed, choose a narrower board. So we covered the volume, we covered the width. What about the length? The length is very important to look at as well. Basically, a longer board will glide better and have better tracking. So if you want to go straight and you want to go fast, choose a longer board. It'll help you go faster and glide better. If you're planning to surf, probably something 10-6 or shorter will probably be best, because a shorter board will allow you to maneuver better. It'll allow you to turn around to catch the wave easier. It'll turn easier on the wave and be more maneuverable. You can get on the back of the board and kind of turn it on the tail. So for surfing, the shorter you can go and the lower volume you can go, usually the better for surfing. But don't get a board that's too small when you're starting out. You want something that has enough volume and stability to paddle back out and easily catch the waves. So many people make the mistake of buying a high-performance surfing model because they want to surf with it, and then find out that it's just too small for them to comfortably paddle on. So another really important aspect when you're choosing a board is the design of the board. So the outline, the rocker line, and the rail shape, and then the nose to tail tapering shape. So those are all important. At Blue Planet, I've been designing boards for over 10 years. They're computer designed, so we make small refinements every year. I try to improve the performance, and small things make a big difference. I think the most important thing on a board, which most people kind of ignore, is the rocker line of the board. So it's kind of that shape of the bottom contour of the board. It makes a big difference. A lot of rocker will turn easier on the wave, but also be a little bit slower through the water, kind of push through the water more, versus a flatter rocker will generally be faster. If it's too flat though, it can also be slower. So it has to have a good rocker line that matches the water that you're paddling on. So too much rocker can be bad, too little rocker can be bad, and the distribution of the rocker is very important. So it's very subtle, but makes a big difference in how the board handles. So some of the cheap boards that aren't designed well, just having the rocker being a little bit off, like a flat spot in the middle, or too much or too little rocker in the nose, too much or too little rocker in the tail, can make the whole board not work right.
So in terms of outlines, let's compare these two models here. This one is the Big Neptune. It's 9.6 by 31 by 160 liters. And this one over here is the Fun Stick, which is 9.4 by 33 by 140 liters. So you'll see the outline has a little bit more of a pointy nose on the Fun Stick. The tails are actually fairly similar. The Big Neptune has a little bit of a wider rounded nose. It's not a super wide longboard nose, but it does have a little bit more volume in the nose and more width. So that helps kind of draw that wide point further forward. So if you look at the middle part of the board, has a little bit of a straighter outline versus the Fun Stick is more curvy. So the curviness of the Fun Stick will help you make it more maneuverable. Like if you're on a wave, having a curvy outline and a pointy nose and tail will help you with turning. The nose also kind of helps you prevent catching the nose in a turn. And when you're going through whitewater, it kind of goes through the whitewater and chop a little bit easier by kind of just being able to punch through the water a little bit easier. Versus a wider nose gives you more stability, better tracking with that straighter outline, better stability for the same width. But sometimes that wide nose kind of can get caught in the whitewater if you're going through whitewater. Also, if you're going through choppy water, sometimes it kind of can have a little bit more drag on the chop in the water because you just have more surface area in the nose. But the advantage of having a wider nose or a wider tail is that it kind of brings that wide point more forward and more back, so it has more stability at a certain width, versus this kind of shape where it's more curvy with a pointy nose and tail. You'll need a little bit more width in the middle to make up for that less stability in the front and the back of the board. Okay, let's take a look at the rail shape of these two boards. This one here has a really thin rail shape. If you look at this, like it has kind of a real thinned out rail, versus this one has a little bit of a fuller rail. So it has more volume in the rail, versus this is kind of more tapered out and thinner. So the thinner rail helps in the surf because it kind of lets you kind of sink into the turn a little bit more, gives you more grab on a wave. It's a little bit more high performance, also is a little bit less sensitive to chop from the side or wind coming from the side and so on. So usually a thinner rail will be more high performance, especially in the tail. You want a thin rail because that helps with turning and carving. Versus having thicker rails with more volume will make the board a little bit more stable as you have more thickness. And then also, I would say a little bit more forgiving to have a fatter rail. It doesn't carve into the turn as much, but it's kind of a little bit softer in the turn and so on. So thinner rails are more for high performance surfing type of boards. Thicker rails are a little bit more forgiving, more all round, a little bit more stable, and they have more volume in the rails.
Another important thing to consider are your future goals. So depending on what you want to use the board for, is it just casual use on weekends with the family and you just want to cruise and have an all-round board, then a more stable, more user-friendly board is recommended. If you do want to advance quickly and you're planning on paddling a lot and maybe going in the surf and so on, you might want to consider getting a more challenging, more high-performance board right from the start. At the same time, make sure you don't go too advanced. Many people make the mistake of buying a high-performance board that's made for a much more skilled rider before they have the skills, and then they just get frustrated and don't use the board. So make sure you get a board that's suitable for your needs. But we always recommend getting a board That's a little bit challenging at first because your balance will improve quickly and you don't want to outgrow your board too fast. So another really important thing to consider, of course, is your budget, the availability of boards in your marketplace, and then the value you get for your money and the construction and so on. So some people say lightweight, strength, low price, choose 2 out of 3. So you can have lightweight and low price, you can have strong and low price, but you're not going to get all 3 together. So to make a board light and strong, it's going to be a more expensive board. You can make an inexpensive board that's lightweight by just adding less material, but it's not going to be durable. It's going to be very fragile. You can make a board very strong by just adding more material, adding more layers of glass, which is not expensive. So you can have a board that's inexpensive and strong, but usually it's not going to be lightweight. So that's kind of a trade-off. If you want a very light construction, go with like a carbon fiber construction or PVC sandwich construction, light and strong. Sandwich construction is where basically the layers of glass are separated, and that construction is going to be stronger but also more expensive. So another very important point is try as many boards as you can before making a buying decision. It'll give you a much better idea of what kind of volume, what kind of width and length works for you, what kind of shape works for you, and so on. Many people buy a board sight unseen, order it on the internet, and then they find out it's a waste of money because it's not the right board for them. So don't make that mistake. At Blue Planet, we usually offer SUP clinics, not right now due to the pandemic, but usually we do them every 6 weeks. We put all our rental boards on the beach and let customers demo them. So that's an excellent way to try many different boards all at once. We also offer a try before you buy rental program, so you can rent boards, try out different models, and then apply the rental fee as a credit towards a purchase. And or you can take a lesson with an instructor. The instructor can bring a couple different boards that you can try and see which one you like better. So those are some good ways to try different boards before you make the buying decision. If that's not an option where you are, visit us on Oahu and check out Blue Planet Surf. We also ship boards internationally and in the US. Our website includes free air cargo shipping in the US to the nearest major airport, and we also ship boards internationally. So check out blueplanetsurf.com, check out all our videos on YouTube, subscribe to our Blue Planet Surf YouTube channel, and give us a thumbs up if you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching. Aloha.